Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question that is to discuss a little bit more a little bit more about narcissistic or psychopathic exploitation. What does that mean? What does it look like? What does it gain for the narcissist or the psychopath? And then what are its effects or impact on you for your decision making, for your I am, for, sort of your future and your fulfillment and your happiness. When we when we talk about exploitation, we're really talking about someone who knowingly takes advantage of someone who has a vulnerability or a weakness, a predisposition or a tendency to be a specific way, and then takes advantage of that for their own ends and causing harm to the other in the process, and not giving a platform, a voice for checks and balances or communication or discussion. So it really renders the other party without resource for what you might call personal agency, personal effectiveness, positive self-esteem, positive self-regard, positive self-preservation, just sort of that normal, natural mechanism that should sort of kick in or take place within a human growth and development as they emerge through, their childhood, their adolescence, their young adult, and into their adulthood. They should have sort of a positive sense of self. They should basically be able to have a positive relationship with self. So that is the core of health, is really sort of having that positive self-regard and not judging oneself one way or another. Not defining oneself as either a deficit or some sort of extreme or something like that, because that really throws this mechanism out of balance. And this is what happens in narcissistic or psychopathic exploitation. It is when they utilize others like a pawn, like a tool, like a flapjack flipper to flip over a pancake. Basically, they use others as a means to an end. Things of this nature. This is not pleasant for the other party. Usually it requires them to surpass their own comfort level. Excuse me. It requires them to enter a sort of tension or discomfort, and not knowing about, how to eliminate, reduce, or pacify, they reduce the tension through usually the ways that are indoctrinated and, inoculated or sort of created by this narcissist or psychopath. So remembering that a narcissist has a pathological sense of self-importance and coupled with a lack of empathy, which gives them the sort of foundation, the terra firma, if you will, within that person, to not be sensitive to the pain, the outcryings, the needs, the vulnerability, that sensitivity to others. So they don't have that sensitivity. They don't have let me, stop it here, because if I go further, this would require, this would exert pain or suffering or put too much on the resource of that person. In other words, they do not care. They don't, they're not concerned about this. And this leaves the other individual in a very precarious position. Namely, exploitation is usually done when there is something within that individual that can serve an outlet, serve a purpose, serve as a means for relief of the needs of the narcissist or the psychopath. And that can vary according to what that person needs. They might need a companion to scratch their back, to fluff up their ego, to lather them up with compliments, and which quickly evolves into people-pleasing behavior and very rigid role expectations. So people literally get painted into this sort of pacifying of the narcissist needs. So in other words, there's a reward in the beginning where you comply with the demands, and then you get the smile, you get the hug, you get the kiss, you get the vacation, you get the relationship, you get love, you get that goal satisfied, you get that fulfillment, and you are happy. But that does not last very long. That becomes unsustainable. That is part of the problem with a narcissist or a psychopath, is because they don't have this recourse within to empathy. They don't have this check-in about them that's either learned or nurtured or cultivated. It is not a factor in relationships. So it can really result in really the annihilation or sort of ignoring of others' presence, needs, feelings, experience, all those sort of situations. So people feel that they overgive, they feel over obligated, they're doing all the work. With future promises that it will settle the score. In other words, if you give into the narcissist for this time, scratch their back for this year, do their taxes or whatever it is, do their bookkeeping, do their work, pay their bills, work on whatever it is for them. Usually there is something, a means to an end. And the problem is, with all relationships, there is this give and take, and that should be an enjoyment. But the problem with the narcissist is they always need to have this leg up. So as soon as, you reach a level, they're going to cause the instability. It's always going to be a rocky seesaw effect. In other words, right when you think everything is okay, or then they're giving back, or you feel acknowledged and validated, then they'll sort of take a little bit more, and it just keeps going. So people don't know what is occurring in the process, meaning that you are being leached dry, sucked dry for whatever a sundry role that you satisfy, and usually you will feel very much like a support system, but you do not receive like in return. So this is the problem. It is not the checks and balances that are just the normal social psychology of relationships become mute. They become irrelevant. They become null and void for a narcissist or a psychopath. They feel that they are above this, that it does not have to equal out. It is better for them, it's like the old 2 for me, 1 for you, sort of situation. And then as if you're supposed to accept that as fair. So exploitation means tapping into your need to belong, to love, to give, to have a healthy attachment, to have a healthy bond. The narcissist will take advantage of this need. The psychopath will take advantage of this normal, natural need and exploit it, i.e. pervert it, make fun of it, ridicule, cause people to feel that they're too sensitive, they're too needy, that they should be ashamed, there's something wrong, you shouldn't, how do you feel that you're this and this and everybody else is that and that, or, these sort of punches to the gut statements that then cause the person to then say, maybe I should doubt and guess myself, and I better stay with a narcissist because they know better. they know best. And, I do not know better. I do not know best. And then you begin to own the I do not know. I do not, I cannot think for myself, or I cannot be on equal match. In other words, you begin to name and label this inequality as okay, as acceptable, as love. This is what, in the name of love, this is what sacrifice is. But you have to realize that the narcissist does not like to be challenged. They don't like to be called out. They're very immature emotionally. So if you're trying to settle a score with a 7-year-old, it's kind of like they need an adult in that situation. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist or a psychopath, it's very much kind of like the reasoning of a 7-year-old. They, in an adult body, things just are always going to be skewed to their favor with whatever is required. So they take advantage, they exploit others for their good nature, their good heart. The need, so in other words, you as a person of sentience, a feeling of heart, might say, I really don't like to see people hurt. I don't like to see people unhappy. You might say, oh, you feel so unhappy. You see someone hurt. What is wrong? How are you? That's a normal reaction. Something like this, normal, might tick off and trigger a narcissist. What do you mean, how am I? What do you mean, is everything okay? You're just making conversation. But then what is normal, natural, organic, authentic, no bad malice, no bad intention? They will skew it and then throw it back to you like a Major League Baseball curveball pitch. And then you're expected to be this pro batter and just basically take that sort of pitch back and knock it out of the park and then feel that you're okay. In other words, only if you can sort of continue to, what I say, sort of enter the boxing ring, or continue with the conflict-based or argumentative banter. So there's always a conflict basis. It's meant to say that, it's entered in, I know what is right or better and you do not. That is sort of the assumption. And so, and a lot of people, peace and harmony, you're really boiling this down. Well, if you really need to heal and really want to really get this, then you need to do the work. Then you will get the results. Here at the Peace and Harmony channel, I am all about the results. I do not like to see people suffering for years, months, weeks, decades, missing the boat, missing the prize, missing the glory, missing the joy, missing the self-trust, missing what a positive life experience is, because they were at the hands of an abuser. This can be prevented. Our healthcare system is not, at least in the U.S., it is not about this. So, you have to realize that oftentimes if people have then found themselves, usually, in this, they are symptomatic. They're saying, my emotional earth has been scorched. My inner sort of lushness has been polluted with in other words, these skewed reactions are part of what you would consider toxicity. They're incorrect. It is erroneous and flawed, manipulation that is designed to distract you and sort of knock down from not even what is your pedestal, but what is your foundation? What is your square one? So we're talking really about a very foundational core, what you call in psychology as being grounded. Having your feet, being on your feet, having your feet firmly planted, and then being in alignment with your posture, and having your energy systems working and flowing so there isn't this block, there isn't this emotional tension, there isn't this armoring, there aren't these dukes put up, and ready to fight. when you are exploited, you will begin to put up, it's kind of like the dukes go up and they don't know the way of grace to settle the score. In other words, when they are exploitative of others, taking advantage of your good nature. Oh, you want them to be happy. Well, then why don't you just do this and then I will be happy. Why don't you just scratch my back? Why don't you do this and this? Make this dinner. Take me to dinner. Take me out on this weekend. Take me to this movie. Scratch, or what is it, the foot rub? I mean, there's usually an act that you then perform that is what is required in order that you get sort of used up for. And then you feel that you are over obligating. And people don't realize that they become a willing participant unknowingly, and then creating really what is then a trauma bond where they are then feeling responsible. So the person who is exploited, the problem with the exploitation is they are led to believe that they are responsible for the well-being and happiness of this narcissist or psychopath. In other words, if you just fit the bill, whatever it is that they need, if you do ABC, if you make their dinner, if you clean their house, if you do their emails, if you remain quiet. I mean, sometimes it's not even what you do, it's what you stop yourself from doing or saying in order to pacify. That can be part of the exploitation. So, in other words, knowing that you are not combative or argumentative, that you then sort of back down from the communication. That can be exploitation as well. So knowing what will hurt you or shut you up, they will just continue this and sort of leave you in the relationship while you're still in it. So it'll feel like abandonment, and you can't quite know what it is to resolve the issue and get it back. So usually the exploitation then is where people are weakened. They are broken down. They have tried and tried, usually a number of different things, to patch things up. Can we talk about this? This makes me, and usually, the person who is exploited, they are created, the part of the problem is then they are disempowered in the process. So there's a negative byproduct. There is either an anger, there is a deficit, there is a loss of something. And that person then will become disempowered in the process. So it's kind of like the second step of the narcissist further securing to make sure that they will always be the one with the leg up. They will always be the one on top, they have an insatiable need for power and control, and generally an extra need to outsmart, deceive, outwit, fool, these sort of things. So they will engage in a lot of energy to do this. So some people, I think, might find that amusing or admirable or attractive to them, but it will end up draining those people who are in a relationship. Basically, because after the exploitation, people will, they will have ignored the red flags that they had to over-obligate, that they were disrespected and nothing was done. So, in other words, a lot of hurts were not dealt with on the victim side, on the empath side, on the quote-unquote weak person's side, the one with the heart, the sensitivity, the one who did not like to be judged, but had to then become reactive in the relationships. Rather than being responsive and listening to one's own needs, that mechanism sort of gets shut down. It gets paved over, really literally, just like cement. And when you look at really the biological, the there's stimulation in the brain when you go through these decision making. And so I really feel that that mechanism gets inattended to. That skill of being able to check in and say, you know what, this is not good. Let me step back here and let me not proceed. Let me regain my presence. So, in other words, when you're being exploited, usually there's some sort of anger. And then it might even create these all sorts of negative emotions that are instilled. Anger, hatred, giving judgment back, because that's how the narcissist will manipulate, causing you to judge yourself, judge your reactions, judge your appearance, create a very self-conscious person. This is very uncomfortable. This is not healthy. This is aberrant, and it creates, aberrant behavior, mood swings, problems with anxiety and avoidance, and this whole mishmash of emotional chaos in the individual who is exploited. So these people, so again, if you can think of it, if you think of perhaps, even in the Amazon, like the rainforest, you hear about how the rainforest is being exploited. Cattle, cowboys, or whatever you have in Brazil, are illegally burning large swaths of land in order to clear the way for their cattle, and they're just doing this, and all sorts of stuff is going on there, and it's creating all sorts of global warming. Our rainforest which is responsible for cleaning the air and producing a large amount of the Earth's oxygen, is being depleted. But they're not concerned about that. They're concerned about, let me get my cattle into this rainforest where cattle don't belong in a rainforest. So do you see how, this is a problem? And, but if there's all this land that they can exploit, take advantage of, burn down, and then in a matter of a couple of whatever weeks, have themselves a good old farm that they can then raise cattle on and do all sorts of, business. I mean, this is, how organizations or narcissistic or psychopathic types of organizations, people, etc. So, the organization can reflect the individual and then that sort of thought process, if you understand. So to me, there's a very direct parallel that is apparent. So with that exploitation, so then usually then it makes the other person resourceless, which is not a good skill. You need to be resourceful, to be individual, to be strong, to be resilient. You need to be resourceful, and we can talk more about that. So they can disempower others through anger, disempower others through negative deception, disempower others through cheating on them, through lying, through pathological lying, through gaslighting and brainwashing. So they will instigate these negative emotions and create a new home for this negativity within this person. And that is very unpleasant. A lot of people are what I call your emotional real estate is like gets vandalized. It's like an emotional arsonist, which is not pleasant. This is not healthy. And so that's your inner flame. I know I use a lot of analogies here, but I need to give you a concrete comparison so you can find this and experience this within for healing and processing this. Enough is enough. I mean, enough is enough. It is okay for you to heal and to resolve this for good. It does not need to take 10 years. If, a narcissist or a psychopath, they'll, the disempowering. So if they can incite anger, hatred, reaction, judgment, aggression, violence, losing your marbles, losing your S, whatever that is, then they are like, victory, I caused that person to freak out. That is their goal. So that is a very strange goal to me. In fact, on the Peace and Harmony channel, as you can guess, We're not about that. I myself, have studied Gandhi, experience with truth, the whole ahimsa, nonviolence, all that. So I have really replete with the study of that and sort of understanding how these worlds will, how this happens. And disempowering it's part of the end product. So if you have been disempowered in this relationship through any of the sundry manipulative tactics that will cause you to be triggered, to gaslight you. I didn't hear this, making fun of you. These sort of things that will create that knee-jerk reaction when you didn't know you had it. They're trying to create this reactivity. Reactivity is disempowering. And before we wrap that up, there's so much to this, guys. Just, you need to understand that there has to be that special sacred space, that sacred moment that you create in addition, like a build out for yourself, like in addition to your I am. You're creating an addition to your emotional real estate. And this addition is going to be where it's going to be at for you. It's going to give you the best view of the panorama of the mountains, the church, the sea, the ocean, whatever view it is where you step out and you go, that is what we are about creating here. And these are the tools that you can create and that I'm addressing in the book that I'm working on that will give you that, aside from this exploitation, which is designed to disempower and instill these negative emotions, anger, hatred, judgment, and then apathy, reactivity. This is the hallmark traits. Be very attuned to relationships that incorporate this as part of the fabric of the bond or the attachment, because that is a trauma bond. That is disempowering, but it is designed to look as if it is something different. Do not